You don't realize it. And, you know, I seen Robbie Manley the other day, and his kids are the same thing. They're all going. They're everywhere. It's got one left. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? They're all going out of the house. It's weird. Well, I told my wife that, you know, when we had them there, it's like, what the hell do we do for the kids? We must have been bored out of our mind. Because there's nothing. And now they're gone. It's like, and you turn it over and we go, well, I guess, what's for dinner?
You gotta fill time into that relationship if it sneaks up.
Yeah, it does. Well, that's what, it's kind of like, you know, you spend a whole lot of time preparing to go off to college. You ain't prepared when you go off to college. You know, I wasn't. When no one to play football and I will, I'm like, hey, boys, give me up, you stop.
Right.
It's like the house is empty, there's nobody there to speak.
Oh, yeah.
But no, that's good, that's good. You're all doing good?
Yeah.
How many grandkids you got now?
I got two boys.
Good for you. I don't have it yet, I'm waiting.
Oh, okay. Yeah, don't rush it.
They don't need to rush into it.
Right.
I can't wait to ruin them.
Yeah, exactly. How you doing today?
Yeah. That's too much better.
I think I saw you come in at one of the other people.
Well, good to see you, man. How about you?
Surviving nicely.
Our kids went to trying to get Christmas with the stream.
Oh, yeah. Freshen up.
Our kids my daughter and
I
don't know. Maybe not. Sometimes it's cool. I didn't think it would be that long. There's not that much stuff in there. And it's all, just, most of the stuff is stuff that's already going through DRC. So
I won't hold my breath.
arm twisting is going there. 1 minute. 1
I still got them. Stopped in 9.5.
Unless I sync it to my phone, it loses time.
Oh, really? The cheap one.
Very cheap.
Sometimes those cheap ones just work all right.
Okay, it's 5:30. We'll call the meeting to order. If you'd stand, please, and join me in a moment of silent prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Our first order of business is approval of the minutes of the Planning Commission meeting held on May the 19th. Does anyone have any changes to the minutes? If not, do I have a motion to approve them as submitted? A motion by Commissioner Washington. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Guster. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Then we'll vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. And that carries unanimously. We'll have a public comment period in connection with every item on the agenda. But if anyone has any general comments they would like to make, now's the time to do it. And seeing none, we will proceed with the first item. It's a request to recommend approval of the Land Development Code Glitch Amendments 2. We have a staff presentation.
Thank you, Chair. Jim Hitt, Community Development Director. This, as you just mentioned, is our second amendment to our proposed amendments to the Land Development Code. The first one was actually the Land Development Code was updated on March 6th, 2019, and then we had our first set of amendments that was adopted on January 15th, 2020, that contained about 19 different changes. This particular one, again, there's 10 articles in the Land Development Code along with a couple appendixes, and this one affects 14 of those 7 articles and 14 sections within those articles. And what I did with this one, I actually gave you a copy of the ordinance because it's a lot easier to actually refer to it as an ordinance than it is these amendments all the time. And it gives you kind of an idea of what what the final form looks like, unless, of course, there's any changes that are recommended and going from there. The schedule for adoption right now is today for the course of Planning Commission. City Council's first reading is scheduled for July 1st at 1:30 in the afternoon, and then City Council's second reading and adoption is proposed for July 15th. This one, there's also a couple sections in here that are being proposed amendments that are coinciding with a land development or a comp plan change, which I believe you already saw in regards to the ALFs and nursing homes. So this is the second part of it. Of course, the first part is the comprehensive plan change, and then this backs that up with a little bit more detail. As you know, the comp plan change gives you what you do, and then the zoning land development code tells you how you do it. And so this is the how you do it kind of stuff. So if you'll bear with me, I'm going to run through these real quick. If there's something that you just need a clarification, I can pull the actual section up and we can take a look at that, back and forth. Hopefully you had a little bit of time to look at this without falling asleep, but because it's kind of a long ordinance, as was the first one. So the first part is Article 2 under administration. This basically changes the plat approval process from quasi-judicial to standard, which basically means that instead of having to hear it, as you know, plats are very technical. They have to follow code. They have easements. They have setbacks. They have, you can get very detailed on the plats. Well, by the time those get to City Council, and here, of course, it's pretty much vetted every legal thing that has to be done for a plat. So instead of, we can always pull it out and discuss it, but this way we can also put it on the consent agenda without having to do a formal presentation for it. So the second one is basically correcting a number and item for a driveway and a sidewalk reference. It's a real quick, simple one. The third portion is under Article 4, the use regulations, the principal use table. We've actually got a couple different sections in here that we're putting in for a special exception for assisted living facilities and nursing homes. There's 2 different line items under CC. And then there's also another section regarding commercial vehicle sales and rentals, adding that to IL. We already have it in the commercial, regional and commercial, so we figured IL, that's kind of, it can go there. And it also, as you know, a lot of the IL or the low density or low industrial uses are on the outskirts of town, so it's still not downtown, obviously. Standards for specific to principal uses. I'm turning to that page real quick so I make sure I don't. This is the portion that basically we're adding accessory dwelling units to 4 different zoning categories. One is the MUD or the mixed use downtown, agriculture for a minimum 1 acre, and the residential country estates, which is also a minimum of 1 acre. And those, and then the RSF -1A, also a 1 acre minimum. The bottom 3 that I read through, those can also go up to 1,000 square feet for the secondary unit. For the mixed-use downtown, that's a maximum of 500 square feet, and they do have to adhere to the setbacks for a single-family home. The other part that was that I had to clarify, because we also wanted to make sure we kept our standards regarding mobile homes. A mobile home or a similar off-site constructed dwelling unit is not supposed to be used as that accessory dwelling unit. It's supposed to not be a portable unit that you can go in and just drop it down. It's supposed to be constructed on-site.
Excuse me, Jim, where are you, looking at?
It's actually on page 21 of 42 for the ordinance itself. This is on 4.2.3, right in the middle of the first page. The next one that came up, and this is in reaction to some questions that some of the developers had with subdivisions, the requirements that we ended up putting in regarding recreation facilities, the 100 dwelling units ended up being a little bit too low. It wasn't cost effective for a small development to go in. So we were looking at some of the other cities and what they were actually utilizing for their thresholds, and so we popped that up to 250 units, which is it's still considered a small development for a lot of the developments that we've got. A lot of the single family developments are going around 300 to 400. So we figured 250 would actually. It was a little bit more of a break-even point for being able to be affordable to put in a pool and a pool house and bathrooms that the HOA had to support. And then for, let's see here, and then the other one, we also had thresholds going up, so we bumped the thresholds up from 150 to 300, and basically it staggered those development thresholds again. Signage compliance.
Jim, really quick question.
Sure.
On the number of units. What did, when you said to be comparable with the surrounding areas or other cities, what numbers did you come up with for that?
Oh, they ranged anywhere from 150, 200 up to about 500 units. So it was, we picked, the 100 was, it was something to get in the books, but as it turned out, it was just a little bit too low to make it affordable for developers to go in and basically spend $100,000 putting in a pool house and.
Right. Well, I remember that discussion when
Yes.
that was instituted. I was just curious what the logic was for that number back then versus now changing.
Well, staff was looking for, staff was looking for a number, and a lot of the developments that we were having, they were coming in at about 100 units or so. So some of the smaller ones. So we thought, well, let's get them right at the beginning, and we got a lot of grief from the developers. We would not end up getting a lot of the infill products that we were getting at that time, carrying on through now. And so we wanted to be a little bit more flexible with that type of unit. And then the other thing that actually some of you brought up is that some of these larger developments, they've got 75, 85 foot wide lots. They could actually put a pool in themselves anyway. So we were thinking, a lot of these are putting pools in, so why not pop that up to 250, and more than likely a quarter to half of those homes that would probably end up putting a pool in anyway.
But it's not based on a lot size requirement. It's just the blanket number is going to be 250.
Correct.
Either
Yes.
It's townhomes or it's small zero lot lines.
Well, I didn't change. Yeah, the townhomes really didn't change. It was just the single family units that we changed those.
Okay.
So the next one is the nursing home. This is continuing care retirement community, and then the next one after that was health care uses. And those are the two that we added in. The nursing homes and assisted living facilities may be allowed as a special exception in the commercial land use category and consistent with the Land Development Code with a maximum intensity of 2.0 FAR, and shall also be the primary use and a standalone development. Those two items, those last two items are key, because what we don't want occurring is a ALF going in a commercial shopping center. And that stops that right there. They do have to be standalone. We had a couple, excuse me, we had a couple developers that were looking at putting in ALFs on some property, and the properties that they had were actually good locations. They were back behind some commercial developments, but the FAR, the floor area ratio, the only thing they could get is maybe 130 to 140,000 square feet, and a lot of these are over 200,000 square feet. they're multi-stories, they're usually 2, 3 stories, but sometimes even 4 stories. Of course, we do have 35 feet for the majority, so they would have to come in for a variance or to go higher than the 35 feet. But, so what we wanted to do is allow for a decent development like this. You know, we're all aging in place kind of thing, so we wanted to make sure that we offered that as an option. They're usually very good, clean uses. When somebody goes in and spends a few $1 million on a project, they're good. They're decent projects. So we wanted to make sure that was opened up for us. The next one up is swimming pools. This is on page 24, 24 and 25. What occurred with this one, we had a pool developer that came in and they wanted to put in a pool in a backyard, and the pool, the way the code read it, the pool could be 5 feet from the property line, provided it's not in a utility easement, which actually wasn't spelled out. The distance for the pool was, but of course, what do you have around the pool but a pool deck? So the pool deck itself, he said, well, the pool's 5 feet. He figured he could put the deck a foot from the property line. No. You can't be that close to a property line and still maintain your fence or your property line or anything else. So we clarified that and made sure that both the deck itself can be 5 feet or more, depending on if it falls within a utility easement. So you can't go in a utility easement, and it has to be a minimum of 5 feet away from a property line. So that was a clarification. Page 26, this is one that has been coming up a few different times, is the stacking space for drive-throughs. The original code said, for restaurant, fast food, drive-in, or restaurant, the drive-through facility, it would actually have to be from the ordering place to the window, only 4 parking spots, or 4 spots. That's kind of short, especially if you get a Chick-fil-A. That's a good one, because Chick-fil-A, of course, sometimes some of them have the double drive-through, some of them don't. So we looked around at the drive-throughs that we did have, and they do vary. McDonald's out on the west side of town, they've got about 9 spaces between the ordering window or the ordering kiosk and where you actually pick up your food. The key for this one is we've got 8, but if they can demonstrate that they do not infringe on parking spaces or they wrap around the building in a decent way, we can make that decision. As long as they have 8, we want to make sure that they can still wrap around the building and not infringe on parking spaces, especially like I think it was Zaxby's. We had some problems there with the assisted living, or the accessible parking. Thank you. I was going to say disabled, but that's not correct terminology. But the accessible parking spaces were across the parking lot. Well, we changed that to a better location. But anybody that still has to cross some of that traffic we want to make sure they're safe. So that was to help design that, but also give us a little bit of flexibility with how these are approved.
Excuse me, Jim.
Sure.
I just want to be clear about what you're saying. You used McDonald's as an example. And with the parking, about the 9 spaces, 9 stacking spaces, is that what you're referring to? From the ordering window?
From typically ordering window to where you actually pick up the food. Now, if there's more spaces behind the ordering kiosk, if there's like 1 or 2 more extra spots, I can take that into consideration.
Okay.
But this is like, you want to be able to give at least 8 parking spaces, because at lunchtime and dinner time, it backs up. They all back up that way. So gives us a little more, like I said, flexibility, but also 4 is nothing. I mean, that's nothing.
All right, thank you.
Streetlight assessment. This is for new developments, and this is something that staff has been looking at, not necessarily our staff, but also Public Works and Finance. This basically will require all new developments to enter into a streetlight special assessment agreement. That basically the property owners, the new HOA, actually has to pay into to take care of the streetlights. Orange County has it right now. A lot of other cities have it right now, but instead of the city taking up the bill of once the subdivision is completed, it falls on kind of like common mowing areas. It's usually the HOA that pays for those things. And that's what this does, is establish that. The other thing that was interesting is we had a couple different references regarding our utilities design and construction standards manual, and it wasn't labeled correctly, so we made sure the title actually was reflected correctly in our land development code in a couple spots. Traffic impact analysis, we added bicycle and pedestrian improvements because we are a bicycle-friendly community. We're working that way. I think I mentioned this at one of our other meetings. We're looking to put in about 2.2 miles of downtown Apopka Trail downtown. They will go 6th Street, down Michael Gladden, up Hawthorne, out 5th Street to 6th Street. Yeah, kind of a good wrap. You're going, yeah, that's all around. But what we want to do is have that connectivity between all of our parks going north to south and in separate developments. So this, in terms of your traffic improvement program, this requires that to be part of that. Let's see here. Oh, and then the other part that ended up, we ended up getting a whole new section dealing with general development design and improvements provisions. We had one section that was part of a previous article that had nothing to do with development. And so we took it out of that, and we did not get it into the land development code section until now. But this way, it is in one spot. It's in with all the other development requirements, and it deals with clearing, grubbing, sodding, seeding, inspections, water pressure, certificate of acceptance, and it's everything that the city engineers and our inspector people have to have in order to get a site so that it's developed properly. There's a lot more stuff in there than what I understood, but I'm going by our experts, which I'm not in regards to the actual development of the site itself. I rely on our city engineers and our other engineers to do that, to be that expert. The next couple are basically the same type of thing. FEMA had different requirements for updates for rainfall amounts, so we updated the rainfall amounts. There was also something in regards to slopes, and this was kind of interesting. This is on page 36 of the ordinance itself. We had minimum slopes with ratios and then maximum excavation depths. And if you look at that, it had 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 5 to 1, 6 to 1, but it didn't have 4 to 1. So we added 4 to 1. It was just, it's like, why was that left out? It was copied from the original code, and so we're updating that. Non-conforming signs. This is under section 8.5. We did not have anything in our code that actually allowed staff and code enforcement to remove signs that have been out there for 5-6 years that haven't been used in 5 or 6 years and look like they haven't been used in 5 or 6 years that no longer conform to our code. Yeah. You know, our code, of course, has monument signs is our big thing. Well, there's a lot of signs that are out there that are non-conforming, but we had no mechanism to actually go to the property owner and say, this does not meet code. If your site redevelops, it would not meet code. You could not use it anymore. So we put in some regulations to remove those signs. Obviously, we want to clean it up a little bit.
How do you delineate that it's an unused sign? Have to be the business closed or
business closed, dilapidated, doesn't meet current code, and I believe I put a 6-month time period in here. A reconstruction or repair of a sign within 6 months after damage, or is diligently pursued within 8 consecutive months. And a building permit is required. So basically 6 to 8 months. If you aren't doing anything with that sign and it's non-conforming.
Now the business is closed and
most of the time it's the businesses that close. Like we've got up on the north east corner of Park Ave and Sandpiper, the old gas station that's there. I think it was a Chevron. Well, when Chevron moved out, they took their canopies and they took their pumps and put dirt over it, and that was it. It was a non-conforming pump island anyway. But the sign is still there. And the sign it's a tall sign. It's dilapidated. It hasn't been used for much of anything. But when they want to redevelop the site, they can't redevelop that sign. They're going to have to bring a monument sign in. And most of the times, they're going to be electronic signs anyway. But because the owner has wanted to do a gas station again, they now have to do the setbacks and the canopy and the signage per code and per state statutes in regards to visibility for the actual pricing sign. Now, most of those are all digital, but they cannot be blocked by view. Normally, you wouldn't put them up above. You usually have them in monument signs so you can actually see it as you're driving.
So you're going to compel the property owner to do that, or the city's going to absorb the expense of removal?
Property owner to do it. Yep.
Got a question.
Yep.
Regarding signs, I'm glad you brought that up.
Say again?
Regarding signs, I'm glad you brought that up. But suppose you have a situation where a business, when is operating, but the shrubbery has grown and now the sign, you can't see it. So you're driving down the road and you don't want to miss the turn because traffic is straight behind you on Park Avenue, just to give you a feel of what I'm talking about.
Yep.
So, but by the time you see the signs, you make a turn. Is there any way to control or improve the visibility of that sign? And because the shrubs have grown, can the city do something about that, or what?
Well, we do have, under the definition sections, we do have a section for clear sight triangles. And on major roads, basically you create a triangle. On a major road, it's 50 feet back from the corner, not of the pavement, but of the property line, which usually means the sidewalk itself. So you drive, basically, if it's on a corner, you go down 50 feet that way. If it's on a major corner, you get 50 feet the other way, and then you do a triangle. If there's anything that's over 3 feet in that triangle, it is supposed to be trimmed down. And that's a code enforcement issue usually.
Thank you.
Sure. That was something new that got put in our 2019 code too. Thank you all very much again. Let's see here, non-conforming signs, we're almost done. We've got easement language, let's see here. Oh yeah, encroachments within the 5-foot setback, again, not within a utility easement, so basically you can't put things in a utility easement and cover utilities. The other one that came up, we originally had utility sheds maxed out at 100 square feet. Well, as it turns out, planning and zoning staff approves normal smaller sheds. But the building code requires a building permit for sheds or small structures that are over 120 square feet. So there was a 20-foot lapse in between there. So if we didn't review it at I'd say 110 feet, somebody builds their own shed. I haven't seen that. But there was a couple people that were coming in like that. So what I did, I just upped this to 120 square feet so that if it's that, planning and zoning staff can approve it. If it's bigger than that, then it goes for a building permit. And then last but not least, the Kelly Park interchange. We did not have a portion there. We talked about concept plans, but it didn't match what we had in our rest of our code for standard review. So we changed the language to standard review procedures in the land development code, which is under the administration section under Article 2. So basically, we're matching different things. And this is kind of a typical thing when we do a brand new code. There are different spots that we notice didn't match with the other previous spots. So we're digging it out and making sure that we have portions that are consistent with each other. But all in all, a lot of these are brand new things. A lot of them are things that staff has observed that we needed to make changes for. And the whole idea is that the land development code is not a ingrained thing. We can make changes to it as we see the changes in need. So, and I'm here for any other questions.
Okay, any questions of staff?
And thank you for
Okay.
indulging me again.
No, thank you.
It wasn't too bad.
And this being a city item, we wouldn't have a petitioner presentation, so we'll close the presentations and open the public hearing. Anyone wish to appear before the commission on this item? And seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the commission. What's your pleasure?
I move that we recommend approval of the Land Development Code Glitch Amendments 2.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Lorindo. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Ryan. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
No.
Okay, then we'll vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. And that carries unanimously. So, thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item is a request to find the proposed rezoning, master plan / major development plan consistent with the comprehensive plan and land development code and neighborhood overlay district. Recommend approval of the rezoning of the subject parcels from T, transitional, to MU, KPI, mixed use, Kelly Park interchange. Assignment of the neighborhood overlay district and the master plan / major development plan based on the findings and facts presented in the staff report and exhibits, subject to the applicant obtaining all approvals as required per the Orange County Charter and the amended interlocal agreement for public school facility planning and implementation of concurrency for the property owned by Quintero Holdings LLC and located at 3845 and 4011 Golden Gem Road. We have a staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. Bobby Howell, Senior Planner. The owner of the property is requesting a rezoning of 91.94 acres of property from transitional to Kelly Park interchange mixed use with a neighborhood overlay or character zone overlay to develop a single-family residential subdivision subject to the requirements of the Kelly Park interchange form-based code. The property is composed of two parcels and is located at 3845 and 4011 Golden Gem Road. The vicinity map shows the location of the parcels. State Road 429 to the east, Golden Gem Road to the west. Surrounding properties consist primarily of single-family residential, agricultural, and rural uses. Surrounding zoning shows properties that are in the city primarily have a transitional zoning that's in the purple. The subject property is outlined in the black. The property is located within the 1 mile radius from the State Road 429 Kelly Park Road interchange, as you can see on the graphic here. That radius is concentrated from where you see the star in the center, and it goes in a 1 mile radius outwards, as you can see with the circle. So the property lies within the radius within the circle. If a site or any portion of a site is within that 1 mile radius, the entire site is subject to form-based standards contained within the code. Perfect, thank you. In accordance with the requirements of the form-based code, the owner has submitted a master plan major development plan in conjunction with the rezoning application detailing the development of 282 single-family units on the property. The plan proposes the development of the property with a total of the 282 single-family homes ranging on lots within a range of 34 feet in width, which are primarily concentrated in the front portion of the development here, 50 feet in width, and then 70 feet in width, primarily on the back. Minimum living area of 1,200 square feet is proposed for the 34-foot wide lots, and a range of a minimum living area range between 1,400 and 1,700 square feet is for the 50 and 70-foot wide lots, respectively. There are no minimum and maximum lot size requirements and living area requirements in the form-based code. Access to the site is proposed via Golden Gem Road. These two access points, one on the southern end of the site and one on the northern end of the site. There will be a dedication of a 15-foot wide strip of right-of-way for future right-of-way along Golden Gem Road, and it's detailed on the master plan here. And within that strip, there will be a 12-foot wide bicycle trail that will help facilitate the Kelly Park form-based code bicycle trail master plan. Roadway and pedestrian connections are provided to allow cross-access to the property to the north at such time it develops, with it's here and right in this area as well. In accordance with the requirements of the form-based code, 20% of the site is required to remain as open space. The master plan major development plan reserves 43% of the site as open space. Common recreational elements as dictated or noted on the open space recreation plan include a clubhouse with a pool, an internal trail system, passive open space recreation areas, a tot lot, dog park, and the dedication of the bike trail along Golden Gym Road. There is a condition of approval in your staff reports, approval number 4. It's changed a little bit, and I'll get to that in just a moment. These are architectural elevations which are consistent with the form-based code, and this is what the developer intends to build. So that condition number 4 has changed a little bit. It is the applicant is required to obtain all approvals if required as set forth in the Orange County Charter and the amended interlocal agreement for public school facility planning and implementation of concurrency. The DRC recommends approval and staff recommends approval, and we'd be happy to answer questions, and the applicant is here as well.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of staff? Nope. Okay, thank you very much. Does the applicant have a presentation? And sir, if you'd give us the name and address for the record, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Jimmy Crawford. I'm a project attorney for Cantero Holdings, who is the owner of Parkview Preserve. We do have with us today Jose Cantero, who is representing the owner, Julie Seamus James, who is another project attorney that works on a different aspect of it, and Jeff Summit, who's the project engineer. We have worked with staff, and they have worked with us since sometime early last fall. This project's been through many different iterations and changes suggested by staff. We appreciate their hard work. We don't have we agree with the staff report. We don't have a formal presentation. We would be happy to try to answer any questions. I can talk great about this project for an hour and a half, but if there aren't questions about it, I don't want to waste everybody's time.
Okay, very good. Any questions of the applicant? Nope. Okay, thank you very much. We'll close the presentations and open the public hearing. Anyone wish to appear before the commission on this item? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the commission. What's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to find the proposed rezoning master plan major development plan consistent with the comprehensive plan and land development code and neighborhood overlay district. Recommend approval of the rezoning of the subject parcels from T transitional to MU-KPI mixed use Kelly Park interchange. Assignment of the neighborhood overlay district and the master plan major development plan based on findings and facts presented in the staff report and exhibits subject to the applicant obtaining all approvals as required for the Orange County Charter and the amended interlocal agreement for public school facility planning and implementation of concurrency for the property owned by Cantero Holdings LLC and located at 3845 and 4811 Golden Gym Road.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Washington. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Gusler. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Members of the board, just want to clarify on the recommendation. The language here is not accurately reflecting what the staff and the applicant worked on, and it's very minor. It's that that this is a condition with approval. This is an approval with conditions, and the condition is it's basically that they're obtaining all approvals as required by the Orange County Charter, if any are necessary. I think it wouldn't be clear that we have to be there's an if any language, because right now the entire notion of the approvals in regards to Orange County and the Orange County School Board are in flux. So the condition is that they have met all the requirements for an approval from the city. It's still conditioned that they receive any county approvals, if any are necessary. So I want to be clear that the language include the if any.
Okay, does your motion encompass that language?
Absolutely.
Okay, and the second, Commissioner Guster, does your second encompass that language? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Then we'll vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. And that carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, our next item is a request to find the proposed amendment consistent with the comprehensive plan and compatible with the character of the surrounding area, and recommend transmittal of the future land use amendment from county rural to city commercial max FAR 0.25 to the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity for the properties owned by Collier Benj Joint Venture LLC and Williams Family Trust and located north of West Orange Blossom Trail, west of State Route 429. We have a staff presentation.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. Phil Martinez, Planner 2 with the City's Planning Division. The applicant is proposing a large-scale future land use amendment from county rural to city commercial for approximately 23.73 acres. The subject area is highlighted in yellow and located north of West Orange Blossom Trail and west of State Route 429. To the north is a nursery and single-family homes. To the east is State Route 429, Woodlands, and Plymouth Sorrento Road. To the south is the Morrison subdivision and the State Route 429 connector road. And to the west is the Morrison subdivision and single-family homes. The property is zoned transitional district, and a zoning application will be brought to you at a later date. The subject area is approximately 23.73 acres with county rural future land use. And this future land use amendment is being processed simultaneously with the next agenda item, which is a proposed future land use amendment to high-density residential for subject properties north adjacent of this 23.73 acres. And these two large-scale future land use amendments are for an area that is referred to as the Floridian Town Center. The Development Review Committee recommends approval of the large-scale future land use amendment from county rural to city commercial. And the recommended motion for this evening is to find the proposed amendment consistent with the comprehensive plan and compatible with the character of the surrounding area, and recommend transmittal of the future land use map designation from county rural to city commercial, maximum floor area ratio of 0.25, to the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity. This concludes my presentation, and I do believe the applicant has a presentation for this agenda item as well as the next agenda item. And as always, the applicant and I are happy to address any questions.
Okay, any questions of staff? Okay, thank you. And we'll have the applicant's presentation. And again, if you would give us your name and address for the record, please.
You have to use the arrows.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Andrew McCown with GAI Consultants. Our office is located at 618 East South Street in Orlando, Florida. So thank you for your consideration tonight. As Phil mentioned, this presentation will be about this agenda item and the following agenda item, which are part of the same project. One is the commercial portion and one is the residential portion. So, as Phil said, a lot of this will be a repeat of what Phil said, so I'll go quickly. But as Phil said, the overall project will be 73.87 acres, and it is located in West Apopka, adjacent to US 441, Plymouth Sorrento Road, and the Connector Road, which is now, congratulations, owned by the city. So, as he said, the property is bounded to the north and the east by CFX-owned property, including State Road 429 itself. To the south is City of Apopka right-of-way, including the Connector Road and the associated stormwater pond. To the west are single-family residential and a church, and the most recent development on the property included mobile homes, single-family homes, a church, and a plant nursery. So the current future land use of the property is county rural, because when it was annexed, the zoning was not, or the land use was not applied at that time, so it retained its county designation, 1 DU per 10 acres. The existing residential to the west, the average built density of that property, of many of those subdivisions, is about 3.75. Some are lower, some are higher. And then recently, there was a successful annexation for the last remaining piece of the property that was not in the city. And so that is, as I understand, it's the annexation has been completed, so all of the property is now within the city. The proposed future land use for the entire site will be about 50 acres of HDR, which is 15 units per acre, and commercial at not quite 23 acres, and that is at 0.25 FAR max. The zoning, again, zoning was not assigned when the property was annexed, so it still retains its A1 county zoning. And we will be proposing a PUD for the entire site. It will be one complete project site. So the proposed program will include somewhere between 450 and 600 multifamily apartment units, 150 to 180 unit assisted or independent living facility, 120 key hotel, and 200 to 290,000 square feet of retail and professional office. The access to the property, the main entrance will be from the connector road on the south, and there will also be access from South Fork, which will be extended through the property and will continue out to Hermit Smith Road. And there will also be a spine road that continues up through north-south through the property and connects with the Klamath Loop, which is here in the CFX property. And just to give you a little feel of the character of what will be proposed, in the apartments, there'll be 3-story apartment buildings and will include a pool and amenity area. There will be pedestrian connections to the town center. And I have some photos from actual product that has been constructed by the developer in prior multifamily developments, and these are a few photos that demonstrate the character of the buildings and the place that they are planning to create here. A few amenity concepts. There will be a pool and playground area that will be part of this development. And some nice interior amenity spaces as well will be part of this. For the town center, it'll be about a 200,000 square foot town center of retail and professional office, probably a single story, not including the hotel site, but it'll be a pedestrian-friendly area with lots of walkability, and we'll have an anchor grocer site. And here are a few photos of the retail town center character that will be proposed as part of this. Very walkable, very pedestrian scale. And as for the hotel, like I said, it'll be about 120 keys. It'll be a 4 to 5 story apartment, and it'll be located at the intersection, as you can see circled, at South Fork and the 429 to get that visibility from the expressway. And just a couple of photos of representing the character of the hotel. For the ALF, it will be an ALF or an ILF, also a 3-story building. And these are similar products to what is being envisioned for this site. And that's all I have today. I'm here for questions, and we have other members of the team, including representatives of the owner, the project engineer, and traffic.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions of the presentation?
I do.
Yep.
Will there be any affordable housing made available in this project?
There will not be a capital A affordable component. This will be a market rate apartment development.
Okay, will there be a perimeter wall around the project?
Around the entire project, I'm not sure about that, but there will be perimeter buffers and perimeter walls as required by code, and we're really not that far enough along in the development because this is a comprehensive plan amendment. When the PD comes back in later, more of those questions will be answered definitively.
Okay, further questions of the petitioner?
I do. Mine's about ingress egress, because I just didn't see it on any of the overlays that we had. It looks like you come out of the maybe ALF, and you go south through the parking lot, and then you take a right into a field. Eventually, that goes over to Hermit Smith.
Yes.
So I'm guessing all that land is now acquired by you, but it just didn't, when I first looked at this, it didn't look like that. So I just want confirmation that that's, you're not going through.
Sure, thank you. So there is an existing access easement across the church property. It is a pretty narrow easement, and the team is working to negotiate a larger easement through that property. So it's a proposed connection, and it's one that we're working very hard to make.
Okay, that's what I was looking for, proposed connection.
Yeah, there is an existing access easement on the south side of the church property, but it's not sufficient for a full-on, city street at this time.
Well, and those of us who don't necessarily like to travel on the highways to get someplace where we can just come the back roads. And Herbert Smith is an important road to us.
The Herbert Smith connection is a very important connection to us, yes.
So I just wanted to make sure that it
Yeah.
wasn't going to disrupt the lives of the people who live on Herbert Smith.
So and I'm happy to defer to the traffic, but the large majority of the traffic to the project will be coming from Connector Road in South Fork, just because that's how they connect to the major roads. The connection to the north, at least at this time, there's not as much traffic that comes from the north. Obviously, the majority is coming from the big roads and the expressway.
Right, I just wanted to put it on your radar.
It's on our radar.
That the access to the north, that black arrow going to the north, connects to a bridge that crosses over to Plymouth River Road.
Right, just above this picture right here, there is a bridge that connects over also.
Is that Belden?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, further questions of the applicant? Okay, thank you very much.
And if you have any other questions after the next item, I'm happy to come back and talk about those as well.
Very good, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll close the presentations, open the public hearing. Anyone wish to appear before the commission on this item? The lady in the back first. Okay. Miss, if you could come up and give us your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you. My name is Mary Austin, and I live at 3401, and I'm asking a question. She was asking because it's that fence, where he's talking about that road, my house is sitting right there. So is it that road gonna come straight up behind me?
I was going to say, if the applicant could address it, I would appreciate it.
Details of the transportation planning will be conducted at the next stage,
Right.
the plan development master plan. So what we have here is some preliminary connections where that arrow goes north for example, to the bridge. There's a possibility it could continue further to the north or just connect up to the bridge. So there's a lot of planning activity that's still in place.
So that will really be addressed in a later stage of the proceeding.
Correct.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Miss, and again, if you would give us your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Lily Hughley, and I wanted to ask questions regarding the Williams estate. I'm a representative of the Williams estate in Plymouth there. And the question I wanted to know, how would this change affect us, the Williams estate?
Could you give us more details as to the location of the Williams estate?
Oh, okay.
Is that on Hermit Smith? Is it on Plymouth Sorrento?
It's right next to 429. 429 sits right there. My house is right there.
Could you point to
Oh,
where your
I don't
property is
know
located?
about this. I don't know nothing about it. Okay. I don't know anything about this. Okay, 429, that you're coming from Serena Road, and you bear around like you're gonna go into OVT. As you're coming around, like you're going to OBT, my house sits to the left right there. And right there is OBT. You understand what I'm saying? Okay, I'm coming from Plymouth Serena Road.
So this is Western Road, okay?
Okay, I'm coming and I'm bearing right around, heading to OBT.
Want to connect the road?
Yeah, the connector road. The connector road is right here. My mother's home is right there, the Williams Estate. OBT is right there. I can see OBT almost from my home.
Where are you in relation to this? Okay, from what I remember, this is an aerial. I know the Williams, there were some homes here off of Hermit Smith Road, and then...
I'm right here, somewhere up in here, back here in Fudge.
Okay.
Fudge sit right
okay.
in the back of my
Okay,
house.
well, that's down in this area right here.
Yeah, Fudge sit right in the back of my
Yeah,
house,
this
but
is
I
Fudge right
also
here.
can see 429 right from where I'm.
Right, yeah, you'd be able to see that portion there. But this, yeah, Fudge Road doesn't go through, correct? I mean, it kind of loops around. But this project, I think, is a little bit away from where your house actually is.
Okay, but you have my mother's, you have the Williams on the paper there that I was sent. It has the Williams estate on it, next to the other gentleman that you had, that he called. It's next to this other gentleman. It's on here somewhere. He called them out, the two names.
What we can do
These two right here.
is meet with this lady and sit down and go over the math with her.
Right.
She's welcome to come down to our office any time between 8 and 4:30 and give me more
Okay.
detail.
So,
That's the one that I guess the benches are buying.
they're buying, nobody mentioned to us for buying, that's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah, that's,
It would
there's a
require them
contract.
buying
Yep.
that property.
Yeah, that's this property right here.
Okay.
And
so
Mr.
being
Hill,
that property is
there's a
on
good
property-
aerial in our,
Yeah,
might help us
I
find
was
it.
just showing her.
Did you find it?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's this property right here that the Williams have, and they've got a contract with the benches
Okay.
for the property to go into the development itself.
And as Mr. Moon mentioned, it might be helpful if you could just come to the city's office. I think they can probably show you more in detail where this would be.
Yeah, because he's talking a contract, it's another set of Williams. You may be talking about my sister, are you?
Very possible. Very.
Maybe talking about my
Yep.
sister, we don't have a contract.
Okay. What I would recommend is talk to the developers about it, because this is just land use at this point.
Okay.
Sure, yeah.
To ask a question. My name
yeah.
is Sally Jackson.
Can we get a mic closer so we can just hear maybe we can hear the name for the record, please? Okay.
Okay. I just wanted to ask, was there gonna be a YMCA built up there?
It's not part of this approval,
It's not
but
part.
that is part of the project
Okay,
ideas.
I
to have a
didn't hear
YMCA.
mention
Yes,
anything
in the
about
western
it.
portion, they're looking at the YMCA next to the ALM.
Okay, that's all right.
Sure.
Okay, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Anyone else wish to appear before the commission on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the commission. What's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to find the proposed amendment consistent with the comprehensive plan and compatible with the character of the surrounding area, and recommend transmittal of the future land use amendment from county rural to city commercial max FAR 0.25 to the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity for the properties owned by Collier Benj Joint Venture LLC and Williams Family Trust, and located north of West Orange Blossom Trail, west of State Road 429.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Washington. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Commissioner Lorendo. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Then we'll vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. And that carries unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, why people have people whose motion rather get an oxygen tank?
All right. All right, our next item is a request to find the proposed amendment consistent with the comprehensive plan and compatible with the character of the surrounding area, and recommend transmittal of the future land use amendment from county rural to city high-density residential, that's 0 to 15 dwelling units per acre, to the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity for the properties owned by Collier Benz Joint Venture LLC, Williams Family Trust, and Eugene and Willie Williams, and located north of West Orange Blossom Trail, west of State Route 429. I have a staff presentation.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. Phil Martinez, Platter 2 with the City's Planning Division. The applicant is proposing a large-scale future land use amendment from county rural to city high-density residential 15 for approximately 50.2 acres. The subject area is highlighted in yellow and located north adjacent of the previous agenda item for the commercial future land use to the south. In addition to the developments that were mentioned in the vicinity at the previous agenda item, there is the Plymouth Hills subdivision to the north and the Stanton Ridge plat to the north, which is now owned by the Expressway Authority. The subject area is zoned transitional district, and a zoning application will be brought to you at a later date. This large-scale future land use amendment for approximately 50.2 acres to residential high 15 is being processed simultaneously with the commercial future land use, which is the south adjacent light blue areas. The Development Review Committee recommends approval of the large-scale future land use amendment from county rural to city high-density residential 15, 0 to 15 dwelling units per acre, and the recommended motion for this evening is to find the proposed amendment consistent with the comprehensive plan and compatible with the character of the surrounding area, and recommend transmittal of the future land use map designation from county rural to high-density residential 15, 0 to 15 dwelling units per acre to the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity. This concludes my presentation, and the applicant and I are happy to address any questions.
Okay, any questions of staff? Okay, thank you, Phil. And the petitioner, I think, said he's available to answer questions. Do we have any questions of the petitioner? Nope. Okay, then we'll close the presentations, open the public hearing. Anyone wish to appear before the commission on this item? And seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission. What's your pleasure?
I make a motion to find the proposed amendment consistent with the comprehensive plan and compatible with the character of the surrounding area, and recommended transmittal of the future land use amendment from county rural to city high-density residential, 15 dwelling units per acre to the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity for the properties owned by Collier Benz Joint Venture LLC, Williams Family Trust, and Eugene and Willie Williams, and located north of West Orange Blossom Trail, west of State Road 429.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Norwood. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Lorendo. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Then we'll vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. And that carries unanimously. Okay, our next item is a request to find the proposed amendment consistent with the comprehensive plan and compatible with the character of the surrounding area, and recommend approval of the future land use amendment from county rural to city commercial, subject to the findings of the staff report for property owned by AED Duar Nursery 1019 Trust, located north of East King Road, west of Clarcona Road. We have a staff presentation.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. Phil Martinez, Planner 2 with the City's Planning Division. The applicant is proposing a small-scale future land use amendment from county rural to city industrial for approximately 4.94 acres. The subject area is highlighted in purple and located north of East Keene Road and west of Clarcona Road. To the north is the Class Act Farm, which is an equestrian center, and the State Route 414. To the east are vacant properties and the Penny Lane Shopping Center, as well as Clarkona Road. To the south are single-family homes and the Clarkona Resort, and to the west is a nursery and the remote control airfields and a remote control airfield and the former Keene Road landfill further to the west. The property is zoned transitional district, and an application for light industrial zoning has been submitted and will be presented at the next agenda item. The subject area is approximately 4.94 acres, and industrially zoned or industrially oriented properties are in the vicinity. The Development Review Committee recommends approval of the small-scale feature land use amendment from county rural to city industrial, and the recommended motion for this evening is to find the proposed feature land use amendment consistent with the comprehensive plan and compatible with the character of the surrounding area, and recommend approval of the change of future land use designation from county rural to city industrial, subject to the findings of the staff report. This concludes my presentation, and I do believe the applicant has a presentation for this agenda item as well as the next agenda item. And as always, the applicant and I would be happy to address any questions.
Okay, very good. Any questions of staff? Okay, thanks, Phil.
Chairman, I just want to interject, and the applicant's probably going to address it, but staff is aware, and I just want to disclose it so it was on the record that we're aware. But the intended use of the property is for the cultivation and processing of medical marijuana, which requires a license and approval from the state of Florida and the state health department. You'll probably hear some more information about that, but I just want you to know that you're aware that staff is aware of it, and there's state laws that limit the control that local government has over the review of site plans, as well as it preempts our ability to review and detail their site plan.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good, thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, and for the petitioner's presentation, if you'd give us your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Tara Tedder. I'm an attorney at Lounge Drosdick, 215 North Yola Drive, Orlando, Florida, here on behalf of the applicant. My presentation would basically just be repeating what your staff has already told you, and they have a pretty thorough staff report as well. I'm here to answer any questions you have. We agree with staff's recommendation for support. Really, this was prompted by a need to clean up an annexation agreement condition from 2014, where the land was supposed to have been assigned a future land use and a zoning designation under the city when it was annexed from Orange County, and that hadn't happened yet. And so we've had some conversations with staff. They asked us to go through that rezoning and future land use process now. We talked to them, and given what the use of the property is and what it would be in the future, this was the most compatible land use and zoning, also given what's happening in the surrounding area. Again, happy to answer any questions specific as to the use of a medical marijuana treatment center, if you have any. That is regulated and preempted to the state of Florida Department of Health, but we have been transparent with your staff and told them, happy to give you our plans, even though there's no authority to review them, aside from building code and fire code compliance.
Okay, very good. Any question of the applicant? Nope. Okay, thank you very much. We'll close the presentations, open the public hearing. Anyone wish to appear before the commission on this item? And seeing none, we'll bring it back to the commission. What's your pleasure?
I make a motion to find the proposed amendment consistent with the comprehensive plan and compatible with the character of the surrounding area, and recommend approval of the future land use amendment from county rural to city commercial, subject to the findings of the staff report for the property owned by AED Dewar Nursery, 2019 trust located north of East King Road, west of Clarkona Road.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Norwood. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Ryan. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Then we'll vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. And that carries unanimously. Let's see. Okay, this is a request to find the proposed change of zoning consistent with the comprehensive plan and compatible with the character of the surrounding areas, and recommend approval of the proposed change of zoning from T, Transitional District, to I-L, Light Industrial District, for the property owned by AED Dewar Nursery 1019 Trust and located at 251 East Keene Road. We have a staff presentation.
Phil Martinez, Planner 2 with the City's Planning Division. This is a proposed rezoning from T Transitional District to IL Light Industrial District for the same subject property as the previous agenda item, in which the proposed light industrial district, the proposed light industrial zoning district is compatible with the proposed industrial future land use. The Development Review Committee recommends approval of the rezoning from transitional district to light industrial district, and the recommended motion for this evening is to find the proposed change of zoning consistent with the comprehensive plan and compatible with the character of the surrounding areas, recommending approval of the proposed change of zoning from T Transitional District to IL Light Industrial District for the property owned by AED Dewar Nursery 2019 Trust and located at 251 East Keene Road. This concludes my presentation, and the applicant and I are happy to address any questions.
Okay, any questions of staff? Nope. Okay, thanks, Phil. And any questions of the petitioner? Nope. Hearing none, we'll close the presentation. So I'll open the public hearing. Anyone wish to appear before the commission on this item? And seeing none, we'll bring it back to the commission. What's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion. Find that proposed change of zoning consistent with the comprehensive plan and compatible with the character of the surrounding areas, recommending approval of proposed change of zoning from T Transitional District to IL Light Industrial District for the property owned by AED Dewar Nursery 2019 Trust and located at 251 East Keene Road.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Gusler. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Washington. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, then we'll vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. And that carries unanimously. Okay, our next item is a request to find the Carl Hills Road Self-Storage Major Development Plan consistent with the comprehensive plan and the 1993 Land Development Code, and recommend approval of the major development plan subject to the conditions of approval and findings of the staff report for the property owned by A Space Storage Claricona LLC and located at 2200 Carl Hills Road. That was staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Once again, Bobby Howell, Senior Planner. The applicant is requesting approval of a major development plan for a self-storage facility located at 2200 Coral Hills Road that will be developed in 2 phases. The vicinity map shows the location of the proposed facility on the screen. 414 is to the south, and it's off of Coral Hills Road and can be accessed via Claricona Road. The site is accessed by a full access point located on Coral Hills Road, which is right here. Phase 1 will consist of 2 buildings totaling 52,875 square feet in area that are labeled as buildings A and B. Building A is 38,500 square foot hybrid climate controlled self-storage building, and building B is a 14,375 square foot non-climate controlled self-storage building. An outdoor boat RV parking area will be provided within the center of the site on phase 1. Once phase 2 commences, this will become a 81,950 square feet of climate-controlled self-storage. A new site plan will have to be submitted for that construction. And there will be an outdoor RV boat parking facility, as I mentioned already, right there. And there will be a 24-unit canopy-covered RV parking area, which will be constructed on the southern portion of the site, and that will be constructed with Phase 2. As a condition of approval, only operable vehicles may be permitted to be stored in the RV area. The vehicles shall not be inhabited. Stormwater retention is proposed to be located on the northern portion of the site. The site is not currently served by city reclaimed water and wastewater lines. With that in mind, Public Services has agreed to the provisions of an agreement which will allow the applicant to construct a wastewater treatment system on the property prior to the city installing a wastewater collection system in the vicinity of the property. And that agreement will be presented to the City Council for ultimate approval or denial. And the landscape plan consists of a palette that's permitted under the Land Development Code, Florida-friendly landscaping. Architectural elevations are consistent with the development design guidelines as noted in the Land Development Code as well. The Development Review Committee recommends approval, and the staff recommends approval, and the applicant's here for questions if you have any.
Okay, any questions of staff? Does the applicant have a presentation? Is apparently none, but available for questions. Any questions of the applicant? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the presentations. We'll open the public hearing. Anyone wish to appear before the commission on this item? And seeing none, we'll bring it back to the commission. What's your pleasure?
I move that we find the Coral Hills Road self-storage major development plan consistent with the comprehensive plan in the 1993 Land Development Code, and recommend approval of the major development plan subject to the conditions of approval and the findings of the staff report for the property owned by A Space Storage Clark Kona LLC, located at 2200 Coral Hills Road.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Lorendo. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Norwood. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Then we'll vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. And that carries unanimously. Okay, our next item is a request to find the Hidden Lake Reserve subdivision plat consistent with the comprehensive plan, land development code, and the final development plan, and recommend approval of the plat subject to the findings of this staff report for the property owned by TGI NF, LLC, located at 501 Old Dixie Highway. And we have a staff presentation.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jean Sanchez with the Community Development Department. This is a request to recommend approval of the plat for the Hidden Lake Reserve subdivision. The property is located north of Old Dixie Highway and east adjacent of Apopka Elementary School. Here's the aerial of the property showing single-family residential uses to its north, east, and a portion of the west. The property is approximately 13.5 acres. The Hidden Lake Reserve plat proposes a subdivision of the parcel into 92 townhome lots, as well as associated open spaces, right-of-way, recreation, buffer, conservation, stormwater, and lift station tracts. Some may recall the above-shown preliminary development plan that was recommended for approval by this commission on June 12, 2018, and subsequently approved by City Council on August 15, 2018. Since then, a new applicant gained the project and proposed some minor changes to the development plan. Shown is the final development plan with the minor changes proposing a dog park, walking trail, as well as parking on-street and in the pool facility area. On June 3, 2020, the City Council approved this proposed final development plan. As such, the Development Review Committee recommends approval of the Hidden Lake Reserve plat. The recommended motion is to recommend approval as well, subject to the findings of the staff report. Staff is available for questions.
Okay, any questions of staff? Okay, thanks. The petitioner have a presentation. And seeing none, we'll close the presentations, open the public hearing. Anyone wish to appear before the commission on this item? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the commission. What's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to find the Hidden Lake Reserve subdivision plat consistent with the comprehensive plan, land development code, and final development plan, and recommend approval of the plat, subject to the findings of the staff report for the property owned by TGINF LLC, located at 501 Old Dixie Highway.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Washington. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Gusler. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Then we'll vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. And that carries unanimously. Okay, our next item is a request to find the Lakeside Phase 1 Final Development Plan and Plat consistent with the Comprehensive Plan and the 1993 Land Development Code, and recommend approval subject to final review by the city surveyor and city engineer prior to recording the plat and the findings in the staff report for the property owned by Avatar Properties, Inc. and located south of Marshall Lake, west of State Route 451. We have a staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Once again, Bobby Howell, Senior Planner. The property is located south of Marshall Lake and west of State Road 451, and the surrounding properties are primarily single-family residential in nature. The applicant's requesting approval of an amendment to the approved final development plan and plat to allow for the construction of 8 retaining walls in Phase 1 of the development, which consists of 177 single-family units. The reason for the addition of the retaining walls is that the developer wants to provide flatter rear yards that currently exist on the site. The graphic on the screen with the red on the lots highlights the lots that are to be constructed with the retaining walls. Development Review Committee recommends approval and staff recommends approval. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them, and the applicant is here as well.
Okay, any questions of staff? Okay, thanks. Does the applicant have a presentation? And if you would give us your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Sophia Sergio. I'm one of the engineers with Apopka Engineering, 2221 Lee Road, Suite 27, Winter Park, Florida, 32789. I don't really have any presentation, but I'm here, if you guys have any questions. I also want to thank staff for the presentation, and I agree with the recommendation.
Okay, any questions of the applicant? Okay, thank you very much. We'll close the presentations, open the public hearing. Anyone wish to appear before the commission on this item? And seeing none, we'll bring it back to the commission. What's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion. I recommend approval of the Lakeside Phase 1 Final Development Plan and Plat Amendment subject to final review by the city surveyor and city engineer prior to recording the plat.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Gessler. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Ryan. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Then we'll vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. And that carries unanimously. Do we have any old business? Do we have any new business? There being no further business to come before the commission, will be adjourned.
Thank you. Good job again.
Thanks.
As usual. That'll be longer. There wasn't much competition either. There's no competition really.
Good night, Charlotte. Good night.
Are you rushing us out?
I'm sorry?
Are you rushing us out?
Yeah, we're excused.
Would I do that?
Oh, no.
We're getting the bumps rush.
No, I'm behaving myself.
Okay, Jim, it's a pleasure. Thank you. Oh, good job, man. You haven't been doing this?